Bing bong. We are live with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. And I'd like to thank everybody listening and tuning in, especially on those podcasting 2.0 apps such as Fountain Streaming Me Sats. I've had a lot of people stream me, but no boosts were left. So if you guys want to read a review or write a review and leave a boost or something like that, I'll read it on the show. But subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And I'd like to thank my sponsor as well. I got Coddle.co, that's CODL.co. And we've had a lot of these exchanges kind of shut off recently, cancel withdrawals. Get your Bitcoin off of exchanges right now. Do it and find a safe place to store it, and then use that seed phrase and put it on a steel plate. Coddle.co's got a lot of different products that they offer for either 12 or 24 word seed phrases. So feel free to purchase one of those. And with that, use promo code Green Candle, that's GREENCANDLE, to get 10% off your entire order. So there you go. I'll help you out a little bit with the holidays. But I got two very special guests with me today. We got Anders. I'll pull him up first. Anders, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having us, man.
Of course. So if you don't recognize the voice, you should. He's one of the co-hosts of the Toxic Bitcoin Happy Hour. That's every single day from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And they got a bunch of great guests popping in and out. And of course, we got the other guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Pubby. Welcome. Welcome to the show. We were just talking pre-show. Coincidentally, we're both in Tampa. So how you doing,
man?
Little Tampa Bayan or Tampanian? I don't even know how to go about it right now.
No, man. It's great you find this stuff out. What a small world it is sometimes. But yeah, so I've been here about 30 years. So my blood is basically thinned out. I only go up north once per year, usually Colorado for some skiing, and that's my winter.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd rather have that kind of winter where I just experience the snow on a weekend than have to deal with it for multiple months at a time. But there we go. We got Anders already in there drinking. So what do you got drinking right now? And how do you guys do these toxic happy hours? Are you drinking every single day at this 2 to 4 p.m. time and just popping beers with all the plebs, or what?
I can't because it's 11 a.m. for me until 1:30 p.m. my time Pacific, and I gotta be productive afterwards. So usually not. I used to when we were on YouTube ourselves. I used to down quite a bit of Kentucky apple juice, as I called it.
That's amazing.
No, usually, and it started. There's some days I have a couple of beers. I like to stop at a little sports bar down here and usually get some chicken wings or something for lunch. But no, not like the good old days. We're really putting some down.
What's the sports bar? You got to tell me so I know where a good wing spot is. Me and some of my buddies are starting this thing where we're tasting wings around Tampa. We're trying to find the best wings. So if you have any recommendations, let me know.
Yeah, I will. Sometimes just Beef O'Brady's down here. They have some decent wings. Sometimes just swinging to Buffalo Wild Wings, or B-Dubs. Just wherever I'm feeling like going.
Yeah, there you go. Play the hits. All right. So I already mentioned it, the Toxic Happy Hour. So, why don't you guys, I guess, bring it back a little bit? How did you guys meet? Like, what was kind of the overall mission, and what got you started in doing this Bitcoin Toxic Happy Hour?
You want to start that, Anders?
Well, I mean, I always speak so much, so I was being quiet, so you had a chance. Do you want to take it, or?
Yeah, sure. Once you get into the space, you're trying to work your way through who other Bitcoiners are, whose views that you like. And I heard Anders, there used to be a show, Adam Meister, Bitcoin Meister, would do a show. And I heard Anders on there one day talking. He was one of the guests there. And I was like, man, this guy, he really gets it. And I sent him a DM saying, hey, like your views. And he just said, hey, yeah, man, give me a call and we'll talk Bitcoin. And that's literally how it started, just a phone call. And, you have, as you know, there's just weren't a lot of people around 4 or 5 years ago. And so when you find someone to talk Bitcoin and you're just, starved for that type of camaraderie, interaction, and learning, that's how it started. You guys give me 1 sec. I got a fleece on. It's starting to get hot here. But yeah, you guys go ahead. I'll be right there.
It's getting hot in here. So yeah, Puppy is so sad he missed out on the Nelly concert that I went to with a couple of Bitcoiners in Miami back in April. But okay, but I'll move on from there since now Puppy has problems controlling his temperature. So we started talking to each other. That what he just described happened about 3 years ago at the very bottom of the bear market. And back then in that bear market, Twitter was so dead. Unlike now, there's a lot of drama and there's a lot of memes and a lot of things happening every day on Twitter. But back then it was quiet. So those like once or twice a week phone conversations that went on for hours, because no one wanted to talk Bitcoin when Bitcoin was 4,000, but we had that together. So we spoke for hours every week. It turned, it really became a friendship very quickly. And then back in 2020, I told Puppy that, so I started a YouTube channel in 2017 where I was just sitting myself and trying to, orange pill and explain Bitcoin. I told Puppy, I want to bring that YouTube channel back to life. Why don't we take these conversations that both of us enjoy, we learn from each other. Why don't we just put them on YouTube and see what happens? And I remember BTC Moon Guy was the only guy in the chat, like for our first 3 YouTubes. It just kind of went from there. First, we did YouTube for a year, had a lot of amazing names from the Bitcoin space on. Then we went to Miami in 2021 for that conference. That was actually the first time we met each other. So after having a friendship for 2.5 years, that finally we get to meet each other, which was awesome. And it took about 2-3 minutes, and we were sitting in the lobby bar doing Toxic Happy Hour style and meeting other Bitcoiners. And that was great.
Yeah, it's funny how that works with the whole Twitter world and everything like that, especially the way that Bitcoiners kind of connect and, just seemingly like kind of hit it off, because it seems like a lot of people just don't really, especially like you said, back in those, 5-6 years ago, not very many, there wasn't a Bitcoin Twitter really, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of people like really tweeting about it, the memes. It wasn't like the giant mass effect, or at least I didn't really know too much about it then. I was on Twitter, but, I saw a couple people tweeting about Bitcoin or whatnot, but never really saw like a big group of people like there is now, which I think kind of, elevated maybe in the 2020 time when everybody was sort of at home and in the lockdowns and whatnot. But, let's pull it back a little bit before you guys started the Toxic Happy Hour. Like, tell us the orange pill story. How did you guys find Bitcoin? Obviously you guys kind of found it separately and then, met up because of it. So, why don't you go into that and, I guess kind of how everything's changed since then.
Puppy, do you have your body temperature under control now? Can you?
Yeah, we're good to go. Yeah. So, Anders was in well before me, class of 2017 here, and I had a friend that it was, I think, in November. And we're just talking, and I know she's pretty bright on things, but she was telling me, man, I can't believe Bitcoin is up over like 10,000 or 12,000. And I said, Bitcoin? I said, I've heard of this. I thought it was, isn't that just like money for the internet? Like the gamers use that stuff. And because that's what I thought it was just, gamer money. And then she tried to break it down. She goes, I'm still pissed at my boyfriend because I guess she had known about it since 2013, and they had been out with a couple friend, and the couple friend says, yeah, we're gonna, this Bitcoin thing seems pretty interesting, so we're gonna get involved. Now, mind you, what those prices were in 2013, and her boyfriend thought it was a scam, so they didn't do it. So she's years later just still pissed at him. And I said, well, man, this is pretty interesting. So I heard of it before. Let me check this out. Now, by the time I said, you know what, this is really cool. I didn't realize it. I thought as an asset class, you have something that is truly unconfiscatable. This would be sort of a neat asset just to have, I'm a bit older. So you always had, your retirement accounts, and you have a home, and you have all these different things, but why not diversify? And I started reading up on it, checking out videos. Of course, back then it was the main ones were from Andreas Antonopoulos, and his videos really made a lot of sense. So I said, you know what the hell? Why not? And the only game at that time was Coinbase. That's the only thing really around. And I signed up for the account and didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And I was hearing other people talk about, there's other things like Bitcoin can't scale. You need some Bitcoin Cash if you want to spend it. You should get Ethereum. This is new thing, this World Computer. And then there's Litecoin, and Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin gold. And I said, hey, sounds good. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So my first deposit, I put like equally into all of them. And yeah, the more you educate yourself with videos and you found people online, I just said, you know what? I don't know about the other ones. I do know that everything is relying upon Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes, everything goes with it. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to go put it all in there. And that's how I fell down the maxi rabbit hole of Bitcoin only. And yeah, you look back at how those other ones have performed in terms of Bitcoin. It was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think, a lot of people, especially now, they kind of, especially the people that kind of been in it for a little bit, almost forget that, at the beginning stages, a lot of us might have shitcoined. I think, I don't know how to want to put a percentage on it, but I think it's part of that education period. And it sounds like, as you kind of started going through it, that's kind of what brought you to become, more of a Bitcoin maximalist opposed to, shit coining around. But unfortunately, it seems like Bitcoin and crypto are kind of lumped in together at this time. And it's just, with all this stuff getting going on, we'll probably get into it in a minute. It just seems like, we can't scream loud enough to just try to get people to quit shit coining, but it seems like it might be a little bit part of the process still, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to let Anders, I know you want to tell your story real quick on that is, yeah, that's the difference, man. I can't imagine how difficult it is for many. There's a lot more educational content out there for people. However, when you came in back then, you only had a handful of other coins. Now when you come in and there's 20,000 coins for you to try to weed through and not knowing what you're doing, yes, it's quite difficult. But yeah, Anders, hey, tell your nice intro to Bitcoin story.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's nice, but so back in 2016, I had a lot of time on my hand, and I studied economics for 5 years in college back in Denmark. So always had a curiosity and sort of interest in economics and the economy and money and all that, and I was looking at a lot of YouTube videos because I felt we have a problem, and I think it kind of saved me from shitcoinery, because that was my angle into Bitcoin. How I found Bitcoin, I felt something is rotten, because back in the 60s, families were doing great. You had one income, you had one house, you had either one or two cars, all on one income, right? And since then, we've had GDP growth, more and more wealth, overall, but people are struggling. I saw, and we still see the bottom of society getting bigger and bigger, more and more poor, more and more homeless. Middle class that used to do great and was a foundation of society, kind of like being wiped out. And it wasn't because people were going up, they were going down to bottom of society. So that's the reason that I was trying to find out what's wrong. And then I felt like my gut feeling was it's something to do with the money. It's something to do with central banks. And that's the feedback I got in a lot of those videos. And then I came across a very a short 5.5 minute video. This is back at the end of 2016. And it was telling me, how our fiat currency is bad and why Bitcoin and gold is the answer to that. That's what the video said. I don't have any gold myself. For me, because I think that helps people understand Bitcoin better. If you understand we have a problem, because I'd gone through all of that, when he mentioned Bitcoin, I'm like, that's it. Like very quickly, I'm just like, okay, it's Bitcoin. I got to understand Bitcoin. I got to get some Bitcoin. And yeah, actually, I came across Bitcoin the first time in the summer of 2011. I think many Bitcoiners have a story about first time they hear about it, they look at it, they reject it. I did in the summer of 2011, and I could actually have had like multiple Bitcoin if I had, been smart back then instead of rejecting it. Anyways, so that's how I came into Bitcoin. And actually, the second video I saw about Bitcoin after this very short one was Andreas Antonopoulos, a video he put out, I think September 2017. The one where he's got the blue background. I think it's like a 37-minute long. And unfortunately, he's endorsing Bitcoin today by writing books. So, I consider him a shitcoiner, but he, like few people, explains Bitcoin as well as him. And when I saw that video, it's like, ding, down the rabbit hole. I consumed like 8-10 hours of Bitcoin content a day back then, because I had a lot of time on my hand. I was alone at the time, kind of like in the household. So that was my journey. Unfortunately, I didn't really have money to get in until the year after, but it is what it is. It was nevertheless, super exciting. A quick note on the now. Yeah, I think that's how I, found Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good story. But I think, I had a mention from a buddy. I was in like a freshman year of college or something. They had somebody come make a presentation to him, and like fall of 2012 maybe was the semester. Like we were real young in college, and I remember he said like, yeah, Bitcoin's the future, and I don't think he's actually bought any since then, but he told me that. And it stuck with me until like I actually started making money, which was years later. So unfortunately, I didn't get down the rabbit hole then, or like scrounge up a couple $100 or something like that then. But you guys bring like kind of an interesting point here. You both kind of bring up, Andreas Antonopoulos, who like kind of is in the shitcoining realm now. But Anders, you brought up a good point saying that because of your economic background, you just kind of understood that there was a problem. And I think maybe that's where, the people that are kind of diving into shitcoins kind of miss a point, right? They're still kind of stuck in that fiat mindset where they're trying to solve some problem that really isn't there. And they don't understand that, maybe that Bitcoin is just so simple that it solves this, giant problem, all the hard money principles, the ability to transact and things like that. And so I think that they're trying to jump into these trends where it's like, hey, it's this groundbreaking blockchain technology. You can put almost anything on a blockchain now, and it'll get a bunch of, well, maybe not recently, but maybe in the past couple of years, you could have put anything on a blockchain and market that and get a bunch of venture capital money. Do you think like that's kind of where the knowledge gap is? Is it's not necessarily the knowledge gap on, Bitcoin and the underlying technology, but more of like the lack of knowledge on like, just like some of the economics and the reason why Bitcoin works?
You want to take this one, Bobby?
I'll take this one. Yeah, so you have to be ready. This is one of the things people are excited once they understand Bitcoin. One of the things is the first thing you want to do is tell all your friends and family about it, and you talk and talk and talk. And this is one thing you'll always learn is you have to be ready for it. Okay, you can't run a race for people. So there are many, like you said, that don't understand the current system. And I'll tell you, two of the books that really had an influence and had prepped me for Bitcoin is many years ago, I had read The Creature from Jekyll Island. All right. So I already understood how the Fed was created, what they did, how they do it. And also when I was a bit of a libertarian, had read End of Fed, and also a lot of Ayn Rand's book, Atlas Shrugged, when you look at what the government bureaucracy is turning into. And once you're prepared, or once you understand that system for what it is, you understand the value proposition of Bitcoin. All right. You're taking value from a system that just, pumps as much money as they want. And now you've got a finite asset of only 21 million that is also outside the system and decentralized. And that's what people don't realize with, like you said, all this VC money going into these different coins. They all have a single point of failure. Any pressure from government, I mean, you just go after the VC. I mean, that's the greatest thing Satoshi Nakamoto ever did, was disappearing. And we have just everyone can run their own node, And so when people come in, that's the biggest thing. They see a value proposition of whatever scam coin it is that always says it can do something better, faster. And they don't realize that isn't what Bitcoin solved. So they're going into coins that are centralized and don't solve a problem. And yeah, like you say, you have to really educate yourself, or you can point your friends to those books and lead them there. But you can't do it for them.
Yeah, what Puppy said.
You're just gonna agree with everything. I want to hear the economic perspective on this.
Okay, so yeah, no. What was the question again? It was a long question. I'm trying to.
Yeah, so I mean, it's essentially, do you think that the knowledge gap with Bitcoin and shitcoiners is not necessarily with the technology and kind of the I guess, ins and outs of Bitcoin, but it's more so like what problem Bitcoin solves?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to understand that we have a problem in society, to appreciate what it is Bitcoin does. So, and I was lucky, that was my concern when I came across Bitcoin. So that was an easy journey to see, oh, it's a solution. I recommend everyone to first try and understand money. And it's not easy. Look, since I was a little kid, I like 4 or 5 years old, I loved money and wanted to be financially independent. Friend of mine about a year ago said, oh, it's just like, so you want to, like, we never had the conversation of why. So it's like, oh, you want to buy fancy cars. So, and I don't even have a car. It's also a bear market. You want to buy fancy or expensive things. And I explained to him, and then finally, we put words to that. No, it was about being sovereign. It was about not having a master, like in a job situation, telling me what to do, when to do it, and often with arrogance, towards the employee. I hated that. So for me, since I was a kid, financial independence for the sake of sovereignty was my desire. But yet, despite me being so passionate about reaching that, I didn't understand money. Money it's really one of the most, because of the way central banking is and what they tell us, and they call it money, it's really one of the most complicated issues to understand, even for someone who loves what it can bring to you. And I studied it for 5 years, and yet I thought fiat currency was money, and this was the way it was supposed to be, and they keep diluting it. It's the biggest and most evil scam in the world, are the central banking families that have convinced people, by the way, they own mass media, so they control the narrative, and it's so powerful. That's why it's so hard to understand, and so the journey I went through before finding that video on 5.5 minutes that explained that's why we need Bitcoin and gold, was trying to understand how money works. And I think that's one of the reasons people don't fully understand what money is, because it's about, okay, the government creates debt, and then the central bank buys the bonds. And I mean, it's not for layman, even, it's a difficult topic. But my recommendation is try and understand money, try and do the research. And I understand if you don't get it when you start, because I don't think many people do. But once you try and understand money, then when you see Bitcoin, you understand that Bitcoin is by far the best money we've ever had. In fact, it is so close to being perfect that I don't think we'll ever see a a replacement of it. That's dangerous to say. It's like the guy 150 years ago at the patent office in US saying, "Oh, everything's been invented now. We're not going to have any new things." But it's important to understand that all the parameters of money. I don't want to go through it because then it takes a little while. That Bitcoin really is just so close to being perfect money that it has already kind of won. What we're seeing now in terms of the price is really to which extent 8 billion people understand that Bitcoin is the best money we've ever seen, and that will take over. If everyone understood, we'd be at infinity right now. We're not there yet. It will come. So when people are into shit coins and they think, oh, blockchain is actually what's interesting here. No, it's not. The reason blockchain is interesting is because it enables the best money the world has ever seen. Otherwise, a blockchain, apart from that, makes no sense. And as Elon Musk has stated several times, and I think this is important, for a newcomer in any industry to take over whatever current market leader, because of the network effects and everything, to take over as the newcomer, you need to be an order of a magnitude better. So that means 10x better. And when it comes to money, and we're right now seeing Bitcoin taking over as money of the world, that is what's happening. It is taking over as money of the world. It can do so because it is more than a magnitude better, probably a couple than fiat currency, which is a terrible money. And when you look at it from that lens, you understand because it's so near perfect. And the only thing that makes it like not super, super perfect is we still have challenges with privacy. However, that is being solved. So a lot of people like us three understand that that's in the pipeline and we'll get there. And you can't create something an order of a magnitude better than something that is near perfect. So that's the way I look at it. So, but I saw this whole thing about people wanting, coming with a fiat mindset of, I want SIG gains, I want dollar gains. I saw that in the dot-com bubble. I was an investor in Yahoo back in the dot-com bubble. And so many companies raised a lot of capital because they used fancy words and there was no product. Exactly the same thing is happening with 20,000 shitcoins that are out there. So Bitcoin is the solution.
There we go. I love all that. I mean, it's absolutely great. So, but I mean, although Bitcoin is a solution, you mentioned there is a knowledge gap, and I think we all kind of recognize that. And there is, unfortunately, a lot of FUD that is still kind of out there. It seems like it is recycled every bear market. It seems like at this point, but there are a lot of exchanges that have kind of gone down, and people have kind of lost their Bitcoin. Maybe exchanges have issued paper Bitcoin, which, obviously they didn't verify and other things like that. But it seems like, another one of these big exchanges, Binance right now, it might be kind of on the hot seat. They've eliminated withdrawals for USDC and ETH and everything on their BNB chain. So it seems like, maybe Bitcoin might be up next, or they might eliminate withdrawals altogether like other exchanges kind of had. So what do you think about all these, I guess, exchanges kind of going down like this? Many of them are just, kind of shitcoin casinos, so to speak. But, it seems like anytime one of these goes down, the Bitcoin price, people like to point at that, just kind of all these external factors just crashing the price. So, I guess, what do you guys think about the current state of all these exchanges kind of going down? And, what's your opinion on if Binance should go down or shouldn't, or what would, I guess, happen if that were to go down?
Puppy, I'm gonna let you. Yeah, exactly. Because I'm gonna go get a refill.
Got it.
So perfect.
No, we're good. We're good, man. Yeah. So, not many people have been around back when you had Mount Gox was the first one to go up in flames, so to speak. Trace Mayer, and it was 2018. There was a big push to understand not your keys, not your coin, and if you don't secure your Bitcoin, all you're really getting is an IOU. You're getting a screenshot from some exchange saying, hey, this is your Bitcoin. No, you've got an IOU, and that is it. And what has unfolded over the last 3 years from the ICOs, then you get these exchanges and then the yield platforms, and they finally blew up. People finally found out, oh, wait, they just sold me. Maybe they say they bought a whole coin. Guess what? They didn't buy it. They said you had it, but that's all they were doing was paper Bitcoin, like you said. And it all came to a head this year. And also the ones chasing yield. Yeah, if you send us your Bitcoin, we'll pay you anywhere from 6%, some up to like 29%. And people thought, yeah, this is a great idea, not realizing where in the hell do you think they're getting this type of yield? They're not. And they're all big Ponzi schemes, and they all implode. And this is what you saw this year with Luna, with Celsius, with Voyager, all of them. And then BlockFi is tied to FTX, and you're seeing that really come into a head now. Finally, there was an arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried, and this is the nature of it. And Binance could be next. You find out who really has what they said they have, because that's the interesting thing with Bitcoin. Okay, banks can kick around. It's all this fractional reserve banking that they tried to build on this Bitcoin name. But listen, when you request your Bitcoin and you pull it off into cold storage, they got to give it to you, and then they got to go find it. And that's the best thing about Bitcoin is you can do these little exchange runs. If everyone goes in and asks for the Bitcoin they said they have, well, you find out who was swimming naked, as they say.
All right, Anders.
Yeah.
Now that you're back, I don't know if you need me to repeat the question, but you got another hand.
Nah,
Hear it.
this time I'll try and remember what you said. So yeah, I think first of all, what's important to understand is that with every company imploding in the cryptocurrency space, not in the Bitcoin space, but in the cryptocurrency space, I would say, Bitcoin, as you said, the price falls, so you get Bitcoin at a bigger and a bigger discount. And the point I want to get to is that if you look at it month by month, while Bitcoin has dropped from 69,000 to now, what is it, 17,400, month by month, the fundamentals of Bitcoin have improved. Hashing rate, which is the security of the network, is up. I know maybe some months it's down, but if you look at like an average, it keeps going higher and higher. And it's been years since nation states had a chance to attack it. Like, it's now so decentralized and so powerful that the mining part of Bitcoin has secured it against attacks from anyone. Even if all the countries colluded in the world and told Facebook, we need your service, Amazon, we need your service, Google, we need your service, and tried to attack, because they're not specialized in hashing SHA-256, which is the cryptography algorithm securing Bitcoin. It's years ago since they even had a shot at that. And at the same time, if you look at the amount of users, that's been going up steadily month by month. So you have something that today is a better money than it was a year ago, yet the price is down, whatever, 75% or something. I think, first of all, that's really important to understand or focus on. All of these collapses, when it comes to something like BlockFi, I heard more than a year ago an interview with them on a podcast where he kept explaining it was over collateralized loans that BlockFi was doing to other parties. But I guess it turned out that it wasn't. They had lent out money that was not collateralized with dollars, like I heard on that podcast. So that's the reason they could collapse. Fuck around and you'll find out. And if you do that with naked lending without a backing, sooner or later you're going to bump into a bear market or a black swan or whatever, and they collapse. When it comes to FTX, They didn't, when they collapsed, as I heard from several people, they did not even have one Bitcoin on the balance sheet. All that money that came in, that people deposited, and they looked at the FTX account like, oh, I bought, half a Bitcoin. That wasn't half a Bitcoin. Sam Bankman-Fried, which is ironic. How can, isn't that, for me, when I read his name, Bankman, and then Fried, it's either someone wrote a perfect simulation and pulled an amazing joke on us by calling him that, or it's just too funny that he has that name, because he's a Fried Bankman. But he essentially stole all the user funds coming into FTX and bought real estate for himself and his parents. And and by the way, that's probably one of the big explanations that we never saw that push above $100,000 or $200,000 that many of us, including me, was expecting a year ago. We didn't see that. Well, guess what? At one of the premier exchanges, size-wise in US, on volume, that was getting in money that people thought they bought Bitcoin for, they took 0 Bitcoin off the market. So maybe we would have seen that, as I expected and others, if that money had gone into Bitcoin, because then the price would have gone higher. So I'm glad that FTX has collapsed. It's sad for the people that got scammed, but they got scammed no matter what. I'm glad it ended so new people won't get scammed by them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an interesting point, and one that I haven't really thought about is the the all-time high hitting 69K. Maybe if it wasn't all paper Bitcoin there, it could have, very easily gotten to the 100K or even higher than that.
So for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty interesting point, but I mean, it still seems like at this point, news outlets and other places are still kind of grouping in Bitcoin and crypto together, and they're kind of grouping in these exchanges, and kind of the bears are just pointing out that all these scams are happening, and that's a reason not to trust Bitcoin and not to trust anything that's going on in the greater, I guess, crypto world. So I guess from your interactions, how are you guys kind of working your way around that, and telling them that hey, this FTX thing, Binance, if it happens, Celsius, BlockFi, whatever, these are companies, and everything else, all the shit coins you shouldn't get involved with, because it's just chasing the fiat gains yield. What the real solution is Bitcoin. So how are you guys kind of, I guess, differentiating that when people approach you with that question, or are shitcoiners just kind of staying away from the toxic happy hour these days?
Well, we never had too many shitcoiners, because we kind of explained that we're toxic towards scammers that delay the adoption of global sound money. So I think those lazy monkeys, NFTs, whatever, they figured out pretty quickly that that we're not there for them. But what happened, and what's important for people to understand, is that there is been at no fault of Bitcoin that we've seen this collapse. All these companies, it's got nothing to do with anything that is a problem for Bitcoin or a challenge. It is a cleansing of bad actors and scammers and thieves out of the system. Unfortunately, that has taken the price of Bitcoin down. But it probably also, we've dropped a lot because of the Fed raising interest rates. So it's a combination. But TikTok next block, Bitcoin keeps working. It keeps getting more users. It keeps reaching new all-time highs in hashing rate and thereby security. New important features in Bitcoin are introduced, like Taproot, so that's what I try and tell people, that Bitcoin actually is stronger and better now, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop Bitcoin to put out another block every 10 minutes on average. Bitcoin is doing phenomenal. The price is down because people don't get it, but that's what we're trying to help people to do.
Puppy, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, look, man, burn it all down. All right. At some point, we need this cleansing. If you're self-custodying your Bitcoin, you've got nothing to worry about. Everyone that has it off of all their exchanges, all you can do is watch everything crash around it. And I'm not sure how fast, but if and when Binance goes, all it's going to do is increase the scrutiny. Okay, the regulation is coming. Okay, because Bitcoin is the only true commodity out there. Everything else is truly a security, and they're all selling unregistered securities. And guess what? People are going to get burned that hold them. And this is what you do have to explain, because you talk about the FUD, and they love, man, the government and me, they love to conflate Bitcoin with everything else. And I retweeted an article that came out the other day, and I think it was on Fox or something, but they have a picture of the Bitcoin logo, and it's right next to Web3. And the article's about Web3. Basically saying, Web3, is this the future or is this a Ponzi? So in one picture, what you see there is a Bitcoin logo, Web3, and Ponzi. So this is what the average viewer looks like coming in. So they love to conflate it. You know, the longer they can keep Bitcoin down, all right, and keep people from understanding how it's different and how it helps, it's better for them. And when you're looking at this, and I tell you, when you're starting here, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. In fact, you should be holding, I always say, for at least two halvings. Do not put anything in here you need for two halvings, or roughly we have a halving every 4 years if anyone's new and listening here. So 8 years, and I'll tell you what, man. Look, and it's so beautiful because it's something different to different people and different cultures, And if you go back 3 years since this whole pandemic started with the lockdowns, all right, and Bitcoin was at $5,000. Yes, artificially popped up to 69,000, and we're finding out those reasons now. But even from 5,000 to pumping to 17, 20. Look at people in Turkey, Venezuela. Someone in Turkey just 3 years ago at the start of this, if they had $1,000 in the bank, it's worth like $100 right now. All right, $80. That's how much their currency has been debased and going through hyperinflation. And every time you turn around, there's just another cool feature of Bitcoin. Jack Mallers, when he started Strike, he found a way to use the Bitcoin rails. Okay, transferring fiat from one country to another. Everyone, for example, just use El Salvador as an example. But I think these countries, people in the West, we don't know this as much, but major Asian countries as well. A lot of times, when the kids go abroad, they get a job. They're older to get a job, but a lot of them, they send money home in the form of remittances. And when they were using, Western Union, who's jamming them for 30%, 35% on fees, this is a real world use case. And I just think it's fantastic to watch how this all unfolds. We saw what happened in Canada. The tyranny is creeping in. All right, and if people are talking about Bitcoin's volatile over the short term, well, listen, when all those truck drivers and their families had all of their bank accounts and credit cards frozen, all right, that's 0% that you can get access to. So if you've got short term swings, by short term, I mean over a couple of years, you better have some of your value outside of this system. And I just think it's great every year, man. You just get more and more convicted, and you see where the world is going, coming up with the centralized, the CBDCs and that form of control. Every time you turn around, there's just another use case for Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean that's absolutely well said from both of you, and I appreciate the insights. And yeah, I mean a bunch of different sound bites from here and there, but Anders, you brought up a little bit about the Fed and the overall raising interest rates. So we've had the Fed, kind of consistently raising by 75 basis points, and in this past meeting they met on Wednesday. We're recording on Thursday the 15th. So they met yesterday, and they're raising the interest rates by another 50 basis points, which sounds less than what they've been doing, but historically is still a pretty high raise. And then we've also had the CPI print that came out on the 13th of 7.1%. And, that was lower than expectations of 7.3, which is insane. And the market still ripped. So, I guess it seems like at this point, the Fed and Jerome Powell just kind of, pulling the strings behind the scenes with, the overall fiat currency. but it seems to be affecting, the Bitcoin price and kind of the way people view Bitcoin as well. So, I mean, how do you think that those two worlds are going to keep interacting, I guess, for the time being, especially in such a, volatile and inflationary time that we're in right now?
The two worlds of fiat currency and Bitcoin, or?
Yeah, and I mean, just the overall policies that the Federal Reserve are kind of, I guess, making and kind of changing as they go at this point.
Well, I think the Fed is in the driver's seat in terms of also the price of Bitcoin. And this hiking interest rate has definitely punished all assets. And short-term Bitcoin is correlated to other assets, but long-term not. So when Bitcoin has just kept, or they have kept raising the interest rates, we've seen a punishment of the price of Bitcoin. So now I guess we are waiting for something to break in the system. And when I say that, it's because I listen to some really smart people, like this morning in Cafe Bitcoin, which Swan runs. There was Larry Lepard, James Lavish, Dr. Jeff Ross, Greg Foss, Preston Pish, amazingly smart people in this space, talking macroeconomics. And I think, well, as they're all saying, they expect something to break. We just don't know what's going to break and when it happens. But when it does, and it's pretty much inevitable, as Greg Foss says, it's simply math. When that happens, they may not lower rates, because that's what people know officially, is like the Fed is fighting inflation, but they may stop printing money. Give me 2 seconds. They might. 2 seconds. Poppy, take over.
Puppy, let's hear it on your end.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Andrew's the guy. He knows all the thing with the rates. At some point, it's going to be a pivot. All this, this is unsustainable. And I'll give you an example of what's happened as far as the rates effect on home prices. I bought my house in 2001, and at the time I got a great deal at 7%. 7% was actually a good deal, because it was coming down from 8 and 9, and thought that was great. But for 20 years, we saw these rates just go to ridiculous lows. And I remember, like, at 4.5%, man, I did a refi, because I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. They're debasing the currency. They're giving these rates when inflation, what's going on with it, and you can say, man, if I can get this at 4.5%, this is crazy. Well, fast forward to 2020, and we're at 2.7%. I mean, it was free money, absolutely free money. But how quickly did we go from 3%, ticked up a little bit? That's only been within a year, and we're pushing, 6-7%. By the way, home prices have tripled and quadrupled in value in that time. And so I'm looking around my neighborhood, and the mortgage that someone got, 10, 15 years ago, if they're buying that same house today, you're paying 3 times on just your mortgage. We have a generation, unfortunately, that's coming up. If you're a kid in your 20, man, I don't know what to tell them, because wages sure as hell hasn't kept up. How do they afford these homes and houses, man? It's a sad thing to see.
All right, Anders, you made it back with us. Do you have anything to add, or kind of want to get back into the point about the Fed raising interest rates? But I mean, Pubby, you nailed it on the head there about the inflation with home prices and everything else. And it seemed like they're kind of trying to, I guess, reverse some of the steps that they made earlier. Obviously, we had the interest rates very low, near 0% for nearly a decade, maybe even a little bit longer, up until the 2020-ish crash after the print and everything. They started raising them, and it seems like they should have kind of started raising them a little bit earlier. But everybody can sit here and kind of hindsight is 2020, right? So I guess, how do you think that this continues, Anders? And yeah, do you want to kind of get into the overall just Fed policy and kind of what's going on in the fiat clown world over here?
Yeah, so I don't know if they should have raised rates earlier. I think the Fed should have committed suicide a long time ago. It should never have been created. It's an evil cancer in society, but they control the narrative through ownership of mass media. So people think it's okay and that we need money to lose value every year. It's stupid, but people believe that. No, actually, I think I finished my points there before. I don't have anything to add to the previous answer, but what's going to happen is there are two worlds now: dirty fiat currency and Bitcoin. The dirty fiat still has an influence on Bitcoin, like we've seen the last 12 months, but it's a matter of time before Bitcoin will put central bankers out of business. Thanks God for that. Society will become much better. As Jeff Booth says, it'll be a world of abundance. People can't even imagine how wonderful the world is going to be, I think, from being on sound money. It's going to be phenomenal. And I think that this period of humanity's history under central banking, that's the true dark ages. I know we talk about 1,000 years ago, after the Vikings was done with burning down England and so forth, that that's known as the dark ages. But the true dark ages is under what we've experienced under central banking, and people thinking that's just the way it is. They blame capitalism, but it's not capitalism. Money is the most important commodity in any economy. It's on one side of every transaction. Money is 50% of all economic activity, because anytime you buy or sell something, money goes the other way. Free market and capitalism would be that the price of money, which is the interest rate, is decided by the market. But just like Soviet Union and Cuba have absolutely destroyed economic output through central planning, the most important commodity of any economy, money, we have central planning here in the United States and in the entire world. Why? Because it's a very, very profitable business to be a central banker. So, yeah, that's going to end, and the world's going to be better off for it.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit of a bloody path, to that end, because I don't think that central bankers are going to go down easy, just simply because of what you said there, Anders, is that it's so easy to make a lot of money when you're a central banker. So, go ahead.
I want to add to that before Puppet answers your question, and that is, I think it's going to be bloody, but it's not going to come from the central bankers. Sure, they're fighting us, a little bit with wanting to make different laws. So Bitcoin is controlled. There's currently a bipartisan law suggestion that is draconian, but the real bloody situation is going to come from all the people that, as fiat now will collapse over the next 10 years or so, it's only going to be, as we move into that situation with hyperinflation and everything that will come, we're just going to see, I think, the poverty explode, and their willingness to, at the bottom of society, to have food, have shelter, is going to create nasty situations. That's where the blood is going to come from, is the uprising and the riots that we're going to see. So that's what I'm not worried about, but stock up on ammunition and your self-protection means.
Puppy, do you got anything to add to that?
That's a pretty good rant, Anders. I would say this, moving forward, it's great on the shows. We always had the best conspiracy theories and everything going on. But I would just posit, look around and look at the social engineering, what they're preparing people for. and we always talk about the World Economic Forum, the WEF, on our show. And when their message is you will own nothing and be happy, you will prepare for a future where you're eating bugs, you're taking cold showers. I mean, they are literally preparing people for what's coming down, all the shortages. You already look at the supply chains always breaking down now. All right, these lockdowns, and they're keeping people from traveling. You know, they're getting people used to a future. It's quite a dystopian one, and I don't know how quickly it's going to unwind, but I can see it happening.
Oh, at the very least, I definitely think that it's in the cards here at some point in time in the future. But you guys have been very generous with your time, so I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the toxic happy hours that you guys do every single day. I really enjoy them, and it's a great part of my day when I can join them. So why don't you tell everybody what you got going on and where they can find you?
You start, Puppy.
All right. Well, yeah. So we try to go Monday through Friday. We both try to be there Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And I would just say this. Yeah, it's a great space. A spaces chat where everyone stops by. And this is the best part of just the regulars, all the plebs hanging out there. But it is so cool when you have others that do educate, and Greg Foss and Max Kaiser, okay, and Jeff Booth and these guys stop in, and Lawrence Lepard. And it's such a great location because obviously everyone's geographically separated, but you get your Bitcoin content every day. And yeah, it's just a fun place to hang out. And I'll throw it over to you, Anders, for what we have upcoming.
Yes, we do. So we just love hanging out with fellow Bitcoiners. It's what brought Puppy and I together. But so that we truly enjoy Bitcoin conferences because that's the time where we get to meet our friends from Bitcoin Twitter. So what Puppy and I did this year at Pacific Bitcoin, which was Swan's first conference that they hosted, and what an amazing job they did. That was really, really amazing. Trying to avoid to swear. So what we did, Puppy and I, the day before, we've seen John Chenot, shout out, throw a couple of pleb parties in Miami before that conference. So for LA, we thought, why not? Let's go. Let's have that, because we enjoyed it in Miami in 21 and 22. Let's throw, it's my backyard. Let's throw a pleb party. And we did so, and had an amazing time there. I truly loved it. It was a lot of fun putting together something that we had 390 people walk through the door. Had help for some really good people, K-Man, Ulrich, and others. And a lot of people gave us the feedback afterwards that they're so happy they came to the pleb party because they made those connections with new people and people they already knew from Twitter. So they told us that they enjoyed the conference more because they already had those connections. To me, that's like the best possible feedback, apart from the party itself being kick-ass. So what we have coming up is we're throwing in another party for Miami because we like doing this, and that's going to be May 18th. So the first one, we put in a lot of work and our own money, and it's a bear market, so we can't continue to do that. So it's going to be at what is not like on Fountain, people streaming your sats. It's going to be value for value. So people buy tickets for this. We only launched it recently, already more than 100 tickets. Our people have signed up. So it's an Eventbrite. Maybe you can throw a link in your YouTube description. It's in the pinned tweet of both Puppy and I. So really, really, really looking forward to that. I thoroughly enjoyed throwing a party that people enjoyed. And there goes the doorbell. It hasn't gone for a couple of years, Puppy, since you were on YouTube. So that's what we have coming up. We are in the process of putting it together now. Many ideas, but what I can guarantee is it's going to be awesome. And Puppy and I we are going to have a good time, and we're going to make sure everyone else have a good time. unless they're shitcoiners. If they're NFT bros or shitcoiners, they will be followed to the door. I don't care. Probably don't care. It's Bitcoiners only.
Yeah, almost done. Yeah.
There we go. Awesome stuff. Yeah. I mean, for sure. So, I mean, you guys have been very generous with your time. Like you said, Anders, I just got the Eventbrite link and I'm going to put it in the show notes on the YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. So be sure to check that out. Support the boys. They're doing great stuff for these pleb parties. And I think I'm going to buy a ticket as well. And I'll try to be there as well. So awesome stuff. And
the first tickets are cheap, but we're selling them like, in pieces. So the first 50 people paid only $21. And then so it goes in trenches or whatever you call it. I mean, it's my second language, so it's difficult. Also, while you're here, give Brandon a like and subscribe and hit that bell button, because this is solid YouTubery. So support Brandon and Green Candle It.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And with that, thank you guys so much for coming on. And we'll have to have you back then, maybe a little bit closer to Bitcoin Miami to push the party if you guys aren't already sold out by then. So
let's go.
Thanks a lot, man, for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.